Now, I hear you guys have watched some cartoon about some girl with some blonde hair, and she does some, what's the name of the show? Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Miss Terri Hawks.
Let's start out with a little moon healing activation!
Actually.
Or a little moon prism power!
Actually, we have a special surprise for you. Actually, before we get this Q&A, queuing and ang. Yes, we're gonna have Mom coming up onto the stage. Little promo. Yes. Now the important thing is that yes, later on tonight from 7:30 to 9, you can make one of these yourself at the puppet making panel. Yes. Keep in mind there will be only 6 of each Sailor Scout and 6 tuxedo masks, 42 total. So get there early to secure who you want.
Somebody made this, right? Yeah. Isn't that fantastic? Give her a hand, everybody. Isn't that beautiful?
There you go.
So panel rooms tonight, 7:30 to 9. Make that exact, well, not that exact one, because that's hers.
Do you want me to sit around?
Oh, no, whatever you want. I can give you a chair. You can sit on the stage. You can. And this is your Q&A, folks. You've been waiting your entire life for this. Do not be scared. Raise your hand. She'll pick you. Ask it, and we'll have a fun hour. It'll go too fast, I know. So here we go.
Oh, and I have my tea
Water
and
and
my
puppets
water.
and questions in line.
Can you hold that up on it?
Now, we did check.
Perfect.
Terri Hawks has a very strict contract.
You're good.
You may ask questions, but you cannot ask about Sailor Moon. But you can ask anything else. Okay, I'm just kidding. So we'll let Terri do a little introduction. Tell them who you are, where you're from, and you did some cartoon or something. There you go.
I recognize you. It's been a while since I've seen you. Hi, nice to see you. I'm Terri Hawks. And I have the honor of being here today because I had the privilege of being involved with this show called Sailor Moon. And I had the further privilege of being one of the voices of Sailor Moon. Tracy Moore and Linda Ballantyne being the other 2 voices, 2 very skilled actors. And some of you may know the history there. I think Tracy did the first 6 episodes. And there were some artistic differences with the producers at that time. And there was an audition held, and my voice and Tracy's are probably somewhat similar. In fact, Tracy and I grew up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, doing community theater together. So that's a little piece of trivia for you. And we have sort of taken over each other's jobs at a couple of times in our history. So I did a show called Care Bears as well, earlier on in my career. And at a certain point in my life, I moved to New York City from Toronto, and I couldn't continue with my work obligations, so they asked Tracy to take over the 2 roles of Baby Hugs and Shrieky. So I guess somebody out there thinks that our voices are similar, so that's sort of our little interconnection. And then after a few years of doing the show, which I loved, I took a bit of a break from it in order to have 2 beautiful children who are with me today over there. That's Jacob and Alexa. And my husband, Jeff. And we took a little break from the series, and I missed it, but I've been really busy and loving my family life, for sure. So I do a few different things now. I do some voice work. I still do some acting. I've done a film or 2 since I've had my family, but I've refocused my energies. I'm back at graduate school studying women's studies and theater studies. Thanks. And playwriting and directing. So I think the future for me is a little more writing, playwriting, directing in theater, and teaching. So that's sort of where I'm at today, and I feel very honored to be here with Tom and Shannon and Tracy and Caleb and Angie and the whole crew, the whole green mustard crew, and I'm kind of overwhelmed by this interest in the series so many years later, and I'm really happy to be a part of this. So thank you so much for inviting me. know if we want to focus on any particular theme or if we just wanted to open it up to Q&As. Are there lots of questions? Should I keep talking? You might get a little bored if I keep talking. What should we do? Should we start with questions, and then if it takes us off onto a tangent, or if you want to know more about something in particular, we can maybe take our time with that. Where's Tom? I keep kind of looking to him for some kind of guidance, but we're just going to go here. Go ahead. Yeah. Should we give you a microphone here so we can all hear
I can wander through like Jerry Springer or something. Like, oh, there we go. Like a less creepy Jerry Springer. Sorry about that. That didn't, that was horrible. Hey, kids.
So when you started doing the series, did you have any idea like, what a big franchise it already was in Japan? Did you have any idea that you would have this sort of a fan base even years later? What were your thoughts on that?
No, you know, as an actor, and one of the great things about working in Canada, and Toronto in particular, or Vancouver, is you can have a real life as an actor if you have some ability and if you work really hard, and you just sort of do what's available to be done to make a living, to put food on your table and pay the rent. So what I ended up doing, I started out doing musical theater, and then I moved to Toronto and started doing some commercials and a lot of waitressing for the first few years, and taking classes and honing my craft. And then I got small jobs on TV shows and films and in theater companies and that kind of thing. And voice work was part of that. So I actually started voice work with the CBC, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation in Canada. I did a lot of radio dramas with the CBC, which is a wonderful medium for storytelling. You show up in the sound studio and you create these plays on tape at the time. It would be on digital now. And it's fantastic for an actor to be able to use his or her voice. So the segue from that was into animation. And I think the first animated series I did was called Herself the Elf, or it might have been Strawberry Shortcake, a long time ago, probably before even some of you were born, say 20 years or so ago. And therefore, as an actor, you just keep going out to auditions. If you're fortunate enough to have an agent, if you've worked on your craft and you've acquired an agent, then your agent will get you these auditions, hopefully, for various animated series or commercials or, as I said, radio dramas. So at the time, Sailor Moon was just another audition. And I remember my husband Jeff and I had a couple of young friends visiting us in Toronto at the time, and we had some plans to go out and do touristy things like the CN Tower and that kind of thing with our teenage friends. And my agent phoned at the last minute and she said, you know, there's this series they're trying to cast where they're trying to replace a voice. And I said, that's great, when would you like me to go? And usually you get a couple of days notice, you can look at the script. And she said, this afternoon. I went, oh, really? You know, we're gonna go to the CN Tower and so on. But we cleared our schedule and I went to the audition. And I don't remember for sure, but I was pretty much offered the job on the spot. And they asked when I was available. And once again, I was thinking in a couple of weeks we'll start, you know, recording. They said, no, how about tonight? I said, oh no, are you serious? So it was that fast. It might have been the next morning, but it was really fast. So they were in production, and that's the thing about film or television. Once you're in production, you can't hold things up because there are a number of other people working on the project, and it costs a lot of money for studio time and that kind of thing. So we juggled our friends' visiting schedule with recording some of the episodes of Sailor Moon. So it was right into it, full force. Yeah. So, and the other part of your question is, did we have any idea what it would become? No. Look at this room full of people. We had no idea. So it was just another audition. As I said, part of your daily work, hoping that you get this gig. And even while we were recording it, we didn't have any idea what kind of response there was. I think the first sort of glimpse I had that maybe it was something special or it had captured the popular imagination was a Halloween early on, when there were some little girls who started to come to our door dressed up as Sailor Moon. And I was transported to another time and place. It was kind of exciting. And my mother, grandmother to my kids, my mother, Joanne Hawks, had great fun for a number of Halloweens introducing herself to the little Sailor Moons as Sailor Moon's mother. And they would look at her and not be really sure what she was talking about, and thinking, avoid that house, that's a little strange there. No, she had great fun with that. So yeah, and this many years later, it's quite inspiring. Did I answer your question? Yes, my pleasure. Just behind
Keep
there.
pointing. I'm good with
okay.
that.
No,
so.
you're keeping an eye on who's next.
I am.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You got a question, right? Yes? Okay, here we go.
They're trying to bring Sailor Moon back, and we'll be the last country to get Sailor Moon. If they come back with the series again, would you do it over again?
There are so many unknown factors with that. I've heard that rumor today. You're the second person I've heard that from. I haven't heard it from the producers or the distributors or anybody who might have the rights to Sailor Moon. So the first step would have to be for them to decide they wanted to do that. The next step would have to be to get the financing and all the pieces of the puzzle in place to do so. The third step would probably be to decide whether they're taping it in Toronto as we did the other shows, or maybe they'll form it out to LA or something. And then the fourth step they would have to decide that they wanted me to do the voice, and that's never certain. That's one of the uncertainties and not one of the best parts of being an actor or a freelance artist is you don't have a lot of control over the jobs that you get. You can study your craft and you can work really hard, but other people make most of the decisions, and one of the main decisions is whether or not they want to hire you. So I'd have to be offered that. And then I would say to you, subject to everybody being in agreement, which we probably would, it would be an honor to continue doing the voice of Sailor Moon. I feel somewhat attached to Sailor Moon, and she's a part of my history as she is for some of you. So yes, it would be great to have that opportunity. Thanks for asking.
Mike's over here. I'm wandering. Here we go.
First off, congratulations, ma'am, becoming the voice actor of Sailor Moon.
Thank you.
I grew up the show. I'm very lucky, very much. It was the same thing with her question, but I want to ask you this. Not only on Sailor Moon, will you also be voice acting in some other future anime series? Not.
Thanks for asking. I've sort of shifted my focus, as I mentioned, so I'm back at school as a mature student, sitting in classrooms with some younger folks, closer to some of your ages. I wouldn't rule that out. It's not something I'm actively pursuing right now because it takes a lot of work. I'm actually about to start a PhD in the fall. So that takes a lot of brain power and time, and I still have a young family and want to spend some time with them. So I would never say never, and if it was an interesting project, working with interesting people would always be attractive and appealing. So I'm open to that for sure. Thanks.
So Dr. Moon is on the way. All right.
It's not really a question. It's mostly a statement. I just wanted to say that I'm one of your biggest fans, as a matter of fact. Sailor Moon, I believe, was the very first anime I saw when I was 13. I didn't realize at the time that it was anime, but my brother and I, we used to watch it religiously when they had a collector's, it's now a collector's item, we had a VCR, and every day it would come on, I think 6:30 in the morning on the USA channel before it became some other network. And we would record it when it started to come on, go to school, come back home, and we would watch every single episode. I think I stopped at the very first season. But the part of the Sailor Moon series, your character that I liked the most were the transformation of Sailor Moon and the attack theme song and the Sailor Scouts transformation. Sometimes, and you can find that on YouTube. Sometimes, just out of the blue, I will just click on to like Moon Prism Power, the Sailor Moon transformations, and just play it over and over again for an hour.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. What's your name?
My name is Kimberly Fleming, and I had a question for you.
Yes.
What do you think about the transformation of Sailor Moon? Do you think that it's awfully slow whenever she has to change into Sailor Moon? Or am I the only one?
It takes a while to change clothes, you know. I think you're probably right, but isn't it interesting that as a girl, that was one of the things you liked the most? So maybe there was something really captivating about that visual transformation that kept you engaged? And maybe you can answer that better than me. But what I would maybe add to that is that I've thought a bit about Sailor Moon since shooting it. So when you're not shooting it, recording it. So when you're in the midst of a project, and maybe you find this in your projects, in your lives, sometimes it's hard to step back and see the larger picture. So we were all, as a team, very focused on telling a particular story and telling it truthfully and authentically with I think, I'm hopeful, some truthful humor, some truthful emotion, some morals, some lessons to come out of it. So we were focused on those kinds of things. And now, years later, I ask myself, why did it sort of capture the public imagination? Why was there this zeitgeist? Was it just the beginning of anime, or were there some lessons to be learned from these stories? And what I feel, and this is just my personal opinion, is that one of the things that I take away from Sailor Moon, and perhaps some of you do, is the opportunity for empowerment for all of us, but in that sense for a young girl. So when you ask about transformation, to me, what the transformation is a metaphor for is finding that power within ourselves, finding our inner power, finding our strength to do what we believe is the right thing, the most ethical thing, the kind thing. And Sailor Moon took it to the point where she went out and fought the Negaverse in all of her forms. So she was, in life, at home and in school, she was less than perfect. She had her imperfections. She was clumsy, late for school. All of those things, we all have our imperfections. And hopefully we learn to improve ourselves, but also accept our imperfections, and then to gather the strength that we have within us and to really capitalize on those strengths and to use those strengths in the world to help other people in some way, whatever it is, whatever we do. So to me, that's what the transformation represents. So if you ask me if I think it's a little long, I think no, it takes a lifetime to do those kinds of things. So I think it's okay, from my point of view.
All right, Mike's moving up here. I will say that you have such an influence at my office. Someone one Halloween dressed up, it was a guy dressed up as Sailor Moon.
You did?
And yes, it was me. I admit it. It was awesome because I love you so much. I don't have pictures here, but yeah, it was a short skirt. But I was like, I'm going to do this because yes, all that power. So
That's right.
You touch us all. Yes, here you go.
Hi, Terry. Okay, so about what the young lady said, Sailor Moon is in my heart. I'm 22, and I caught onto the series as soon as it came to North America when I was 5. So the character, as you said, I took from learning to take the inner strength, and she's in my heart my whole life. So the question for you is she in your heart, and how do you see yourself in the character of Sailor Moon?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Thanks. I think what appealed to me initially in the scripts was sort of what I was saying, is that this was a little girl who was working to find her strength and to fight the Negaverse. And I think the Negaverse can present itself in many different ways in our lives on a daily basis. And as a mother, I think about the values that I'd like to help instill in our children, not just my own children, just my children, but our community children and the world's children. And I think that fighting the Negaverse in various forms is maybe one of the biggest lessons we can give to our young people in society. And so what does that mean to me? That means to me being kind, making actions that are kind and thoughtful about the other person's perspective, trying to take an honest look at oneself and see what we can improve in ourselves, and trying to work on our strengths and trying to find a way to share those strengths through our work and our hobbies and our passions so that we can leave this world a better place. Whatever it is, because it's different for each and every one of us. And so when I did Sailor Moon, my goal really was to make that character as three-dimensional as possible through the use of my voice. And I really brought all that I knew at that time to serve in that goal. I had studied acting a lot, and I'm hopeful that that came across through my voice, but it was also a very physical activity in front of that microphone. Used a lot of physicality. I tried to replicate the actions she was going through as much as possible to make it truthful and believable. So that's what I did at that time, to try to do my work to the best of my ability. So I think we all have those opportunities in our lives to do our work to the best of our abilities and to try to be kind on a day-to-day basis through all of our activities. That's what I would say.
We're over here. I saw a little hand raised.
That's pretty. What was your favorite Sailor Moon episode to record?
Oh, what a great question. You know what? One of the things coming here is giving me is a lesson in humility. Do you know what humility means? It means when I admit to myself that I might not know as much as I thought I knew at one point in my life. So I don't remember the names of all the episodes or the numbers, and I'm sorry about that, but I bet there are some people in this room who do. And they raise their hands. And maybe we can ask them for some of their feedback. But I will tell you a little story about what I remember my favorite episode was. So when you're doing a dubbing of a show, you're in, if you can imagine, a little room. Probably, it depends on how much money the producers have, but maybe a room smaller than this green stage, about this big. And sometimes you're in a room with other actors and you're using your voice at the same time, and sometimes you're all by yourself. And this one particular day, I was all by myself, and I was standing behind my microphone, and I was looking through a glass window at the director, Roland Parliament, and the technical engineer who was working on equipment just much like the technical engineer here is, and the producer who was kind of standing at the back and looking at the script, and she's usually there to tell us if she wants us to make some changes. But what we try, and the other thing I should explain, and we'll talk about this more in another seminar, is there's the picture of the Sailor Moon series in front of me. So it's like a movie playing in front of me. And underneath it are the words that the character will say. So it says, Sailor Moon says, Moon, Prism, Power. And I try to say the words at the same time that the words pop up underneath the picture. Because there are people who've spent a lot of time looking at the picture and when the mouth opens and when the mouth closes, and they want me to open my mouth on that sound and close my mouth on this sound. So it takes a lot of rhythm, it's quite musical, and it takes some getting used to. So that's part of the hard work of dubbing from another language. But it's fun, too. So this one day, there was an episode, and I wish I could tell you which episode it was, I don't really remember. But there was a lot of dialogue from the Sailor Moon character. And so usually we would read a little bit, and then we'd go back and we'd try it again. It wasn't quite right, and then we'd jump ahead, and then if we had to go back. So it might take us 3 or 4 hours, maybe, to do a whole show with all the Sailor Moon lines. Well, this particular day, we started the episode. The technical engineer started right away, the director was there, the producer was there, I was there, and we started with the opening, and Sailor Moon was saying some kind of a monologue about what was going to happen and what she was thinking about, and it all kind of worked. And it kind of kept working. And we kept going, and then she was at school and at home, and it was all working, so we didn't stop. So the director's going to keep going. And I was just right into it, and then we went through the transformation, and then fighting the Negaverse, and everybody getting out there, and just achieving what we needed to achieve, and then we reached the climax of it, and then we came back down, and it was kind of the tail of it, and before we knew it, we were finished the episode. So we did the whole thing without stopping. Wow. So it was really such a good feeling for all of us. It was a team effort because sometimes if the technical things aren't working out quite right, they stop it. But everything was working out just the way we wanted it to. And so for us as a team, it felt a little bit like a symphony, like all the instruments working together. Everything came together. The script was right, the rhythm band was right, the vocal work just worked, the technical end of it worked. And we finished the whole episode in however long the episode runs, so 25 minutes or so, without stopping. And it felt so amazing. It's like when you do something in your life and it just works, it just everything comes together. So I have to say, in a sense, that was my favorite episode because it felt the most real, and it felt like it was such a team effort, and it just worked really well together, and that's a happy memory, and I thank you for asking that question.
the magic mic, like all the desperate hands. Oh, please, please, mic man, please. You're dressed up, so of course I'll come over to you. I mean, geez.
You brought to life a character that's a huge impact on me. I will always love Sailor Moon. I'm such a huge Sailor Moon fan. I just wanted to ask, do you remember what was the last either episode or movies that you did before you quit?
Thank you for that lovely sentiment. And no, I don't remember. I'm sorry. Well, the third film was the last film, and I remember that. But I don't remember the number of the episode. I bet there's somebody here who knows.
You did like 85, I believe.
I did 85. There you go. I don't. You know what? They all they come together as this wonderful memory and a particular time. But sometimes we also recorded them out of order for various reasons. Like they maybe hadn't finished the rhythm band work on one episode, or they had to kind of get permission for a script change in another one, or sometimes we were audacious enough to suggest some script changes if we didn't feel comfortable with some of the translations. Like some of the Japanese dialogue translated into English, like some of the visual elements, were slightly different in Japanese than in English. So I would say some of it was toned down a little bit as far as the sexualization of the Sailor Scouts from the Japanese version to the English version. And I'd say it was a little less violent too, from what I understand.
Yes.
So there were these changes going on. So that's all to say that sometimes the changes are still in the works, so we kind of recorded them in a different order. So that's part of the reason that I can't tell you. And I'm sorry I can't tell you the last one, because also I didn't think it was going to be my last one. Because I thought there would be more coming up. And then, as I mentioned, I was pregnant with our twins, and that was my priority at that time. So I can't exactly answer your question, but maybe somebody later can share some more information if they follow that kind of thing.
I'll hit the end of the road real quick because I'm just lazy. You're so far over there. I'll get to you. Don't worry.
What was your all-time favorite part about being Sailor Moon, or your most memorable moment?
I had to think for a second, but I have a very clear answer to that. 1 or 2 years into the series, I got a phone call from a cousin of mine in Calgary. And she said she had a dear friend who was 6 years old. Her name is Janelle Redicott. And she used to watch this show 3 times a day. I'm looking over at Jeff, and I just might cry as I tell this story. And she watched the show that much because she was at home and being homeschooled because she had an immune deficiency, a disease. And it didn't allow her to go to school and be around other kids. So my cousin asked me to phone her. And, sorry, you asked the question, right? And so I did phone her. And because she was 6, I spoke to her as Sailor Moon because I didn't think she quite understood the difference between the voice actor and the character. But then I told her who I was, and so we talked as the character at first, and then as Terri and Janelle. And we developed a really strong relationship with this little girl and her family. And she came to Toronto, and they stayed with us, and she came to a recording session, and she was a real Sailor Moon fan. And she embodied, in my mind, some of the qualities that the series shares. So she was a strong little girl. She was wise beyond her years. She fought the negaverse. She was a spokesperson for the Alberta Children's Hospital. And even though she didn't go to school often in her life, there were periods when she could. She was very social, and she was kind and loving and generous of spirit. And I learned a great deal from her. And she passed away when she was 13. And she left the world a better place. And I remember going to her funeral in Calgary, and there was a very well-known coach from Toronto who spoke about her, and he's an inspirational speaker. Jeff, do you remember the name of this guy? Pinball Clemens. Thank you, Jeff. My source of all trivia. Pinball Clements, very, very inspirational. He gave this eulogy for Janelle, and there was a beautiful picture of her at the front, and it had, well, what year was she born? It had the year she was born, and then a dash, and the year that she died, so it's 13 years, right? And he said, I want to talk to you today about the dash. I want to talk to you today about the dash. What happened between the time she was born and the time she passed away? What did she do with her life? And he shared all the things that she did with her young life for 13 years. And she was incredible. She just gave of herself, and this was in the midst of going to the hospital constantly and having all of these procedures. And she was always bubbly and happy and positive. She was a positive light in our world. And for that dash, those 13 years, that's the gift that she gave to us. And one of the gifts of Sailor Moon was that I got to meet Janelle, and I was inspired by Janelle, and I carry her spirit with me. So thank you for asking.
Thanks for making me cry, Sailor Moon. Next question.
It's not really a question.
It's a what? Oh, a statement. Okay. All right. It's not too confusing.
I just want to let you know, as definitely a huge fan, that Sailor Moon wasn't just a TV show for me. It was more of a lifestyle, because I'm pretty sure, as old as I am, I'm gonna watch this show and love it just as I did when I was young. So I just want to thank you for giving me a great childhood and a great future to keep watching that show.
Thank you for your comments, and I would congratulate you for finding those elements in the show that spoke to you and taking those and working those into your life and finding that strength and positivity from a piece of art, if you will, and using it in your own life. So good for you. Keep it up. Keep fighting the negaverse.
See a white glove in the front. You're not just like Sailor Moon. He's gonna go out today and get a costume. I know it.
Hi, Terry. I just want to say I love your work.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
No, don't. It's not just. Don't yell too much into it. It makes my face.
Doing a Sailor Moon.
Yeah, I could do you. I love that. I just wanted to say
I take that in the spirit in which it was intended.
Yes.
That's great.
I do have two questions for you. One is, do you agree with a lot of the cuts that Deke did? And two, do you like the English name better than the Japanese? Because I love Serena so much. So, yeah.
Oh, I love the name Serena too. Yeah,
I'm actually going to name my daughter that.
Oh yeah? Okay, she said she's going to name her daughter Serena. There is a mother and daughter. Are you in this room? Ray is the daughter. What's the mother, Jennifer? They're not here. I just met them this morning in the autograph signing, and Jennifer named her daughter Ray after one of the Sailor Scouts. And the other question was, do I agree with some of the cuts that Deke made? You probably know more about the cuts than I do.
Yeah, like actually, I'm gonna be dead honest. I'm such a huge fan of yours. I never finished Sailor Moon. I didn't, because I loved your voice and your interpretation of her that much. So I know the series, I know the backgrounds. Don't think I'm not a true fan, but I love you so much as the character herself. It's just, yeah, but.
I want to thank you for that, because I'm proud of my work in it, but I also want to say in support of Linda Ballantyne, who took over the role. It's really hard to take over a role that somebody else has sort of made her own.
Exactly.
And Linda was given a hard task, I think, because maybe it was a little bit easier for me taking over after Tracy because it had just barely started. But Linda had to take over after, as I think you told me, 85 shows. So that I'm sure that this particular voice was ingrained in some people's minds. So I think she had a hard challenge. So I really feel for her in some ways. But I thought she acquitted herself quite well. And yet I understand we all have our preferences. So thanks for your support.
All right, folks, we're getting down to the last just 15 minutes, so make sure that question is succinct. I mean, short.
I'll try to make my answers a little
Oh,
more
no, you talk as much as you want. We're all here to hear you.
Hi, I just recently got into Sailor Moon, and I love it so far.
Great.
And I love your voice.
Thank you.
I I really don't have no questions, but I just wanted to tell you that I love it so far, and I still get to watch it.
Thank you, that's nice. So you can start kind of, you don't have to be 6 years old to get into the series, is what you're saying.
I was 18.
Cool.
All right, next question. You're in a Sailor Moon costume, you get it? Yes, everybody's learning. They're gonna go get little sailor outfits later. Aline.
What is your favorite Sailor Scout apart from Sailor Moon?
Oh, I can't answer that.
Hot seat.
That's like asking what's your favorite sibling. You can't know. I'm sorry, I refuse to answer that. I would say that collectively, when we're together, that is my favorite because I think there's greater power in collectivity than there is in individual. Yes, I'm cheating, but it's for the good of the universe.
And since he's dressed as that episode when Sailor Moon fell asleep for 100 years, we'll go to him.
Do you have any particular embarrassing or funny memories from recording?
Okay, yes, I'll share something, I suppose. Just that, because I told you one of my goals, having studied acting with a couple of acting teachers, Carol Rosenfeld, Uta Hagen, who I quite revered, was to be authentic. So Sailor Moon likes to eat, right? She's munching. So I would bring snacks in with me to eat in front of the microphone because it sounds a little more authentic when you're actually swallowing and actually sipping something than it might be if you're pretending. So I would just get crumbs and things on the little stand, on the script, have my little snacks while I was recording. So I suppose that was perhaps a little unusual, but it helped me get into the moment and be as realistic as possible.
I'll go right here, just because I'm right here, and then I'm coming over to you.
Thank you. I love your show. It means so much to me. But I kind of came in halfway, so I don't know if this has already been asked or not. And I know it's been several years, but can you do a couple voices over for Sailor Moon or anything?
Sure. Let's think. How about
Punish you.
I'm gonna be late for school. Luna. And Moon, Prism, power! Okay.
We're all just gonna sit here for the next 10 minutes. She said it. All right, ready? Okay.
I know this is your first American convention. Will you be coming to more?
Well, it's been such a welcoming experience, so thanks to Tom and the team at Green Mustard. And we've been treated so beautifully so far, and we had a lot of fun at an unnamed theme park yesterday, which was really a lot of fun. Okay, I'll say it. My kids love Harry Potter. There you go. So it would be enticing. It would be enticing. We'll have to see what the schedule would allow if that opportunity presented itself again. Thank you.
We're looking for that Harry Potter Sailor Moon mashup, right? The new series.
First of all, I'd like to tell you that you impacted so many people. Like, you don't even realize it, but we do. You changed so many lives. Myself included. You're amazing. Like, just amazing. I can't even watch Sailor Moon in Japanese. I just have to put the subtitles so I know what they're saying for real. And just kind of,
Me too. Well,
even
thank
out there.
you so much.
But apart, who was not your favorite character, but your favorite person to work with while you were recording? Because I know that different voice actors, some of them are easier to work with, some of them are harder to work with. So who did you have the most fun working with?
This is going to sound like I'm evading the question again, but I don't mean to. I worked a lot on my own in the booth because Sailor Moon carried a lot of the show in terms of the amount of dialogue. It was more efficient and therefore more cost effective for the producers to have me on my own. So when I did work with other people, it was usually with the group. Like we'd have some scenes where there were 4 or 5 of us together, But what I would answer is I really, really enjoyed working with Roland Parliament, who is the main director for most of the episodes. Lovely, talented, kind, patient, smart individual. It was a pleasure to work with, and I really feel that he was my teammate in the creation of this role.
Yes. I see you, there we go. Coming to you, yes. Short, okay.
All right, let's see. I just want to say, Terri, you're the best voice of Sailor Moon ever. I was only 2 years old when it began in 1995, and you're the best, and no one can ever replace you.
Well, that's a very kind judgment coming from a 2-year-old's brain memory. I'm just curious, how your perception changed over the years, but maybe another time. Thank you.
Mr. Mask?
Hello. A lot during the show, there was a lot of parts, particularly with the stats between Moon and Mars, where it sounded like you were having a lot of fun in the studio. Did it have like a certain vibe to it, or did you just kind of go and do your thing and that's how it came out?
So what I'm hearing you ask is, was there a certain vibe in the scenes with Tuxedo Mask? Do you mean, was there kind of...
No, Ray.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. She was...
Whenever they're like on the stats and stuff, like it sounds
Yeah.
like you have a lot of fun in the studio.
For sure, we did. We absolutely did. Really great group of people.
All the time you do.
Great group of people, a lot of fun. So I would say, yes, there was a certain vibe. We laughed a lot, and we enjoyed the stories, and we enjoyed the camaraderie, and I think we all really enjoyed the fact that this was a story about mostly girls coming together and bonding and fighting for something they believed in. And there was a lot of girl power, a lot of girl energy around there. So there were some great guys too. But I think it was less common, and it still is less common, to have stories about groups of girls coming together and becoming empowered. And so it was a little bit newer then, and we had a lot of fun with that. We really appreciated that. Thanks.
Good vibes and good crumbs all over the studio.
Yeah, most of my questions have already been answered, so the last one on my mind is, we all know Serena does a lot of crying and screaming. So was there ever a time that you lost your voice from so much screaming?
It's a great question, and the answer is yes. Not completely. I never got laryngitis, but after a long day, sometimes of shooting or recording, 3 to 4 episodes, my voice was quite raw. I would try to hydrate and drink tea and honey and that kind of thing, but it was hard. It was hard, as I say, it was hard on your voice. It was hard physically sometimes. There was just a lot of, if I was running, I'd be running and so on. So I'd be pretty wasted by the end of the day sometimes. And my voice was definitely a huge part of that, yeah. Try to stay as healthy as possible when you're an actor, for sure, because your body is your tool.
All right, we're way in the back.
Yay. So my friend, she is a huge Sailor Moon fan, and she is in Illinois, and she wants to know, how did you get into character a lot?
That's a good question, thank you. How did I get into character? Wow, that could be a much longer answer if we want to talk about it on another panel, maybe the voice acting panel, that kind of thing. But in the short form, I would say that one of the strategies I use as an actor is to find things in the character's life that I can relate to or that might parallel me in my own life. So being clumsy or late or those kinds of imperfections, I didn't have to look very far. I kind of could relate to forgetting my keys or whatever. And to really trying to muster up that strength of courage when you don't feel very courageous. And I think we all have those moments. So I would look to my own life whenever possible. Thanks.
Got to come to you because you displayed killer strength the last 5 minutes with your arm up. So I'm like, you've earned this. Shaking arm, okay.
Hi, my mom actually introduced
Hi, Mom.
she introduced me to it when I was about 2 years old, and you've really impacted my life. You gave me a lot of courage, and I can really relate to it because I've gone through some hard times, but I always look back here to get through it.
did you know you were going to be such an impact in people's lives when you first started?
Well, thank you. I feel very touched by what you're saying, and I feel like I want to say it's not just me. It's a team, really. Started with the writers, and I feel really lucky to have been a part of it. And that being said, I am very flattered that you feel that it impacted on your life in some way. And no, I had no idea that this might affect people in the way that it seems to have done. And if it does so in a positive way, I feel very grateful to have been a part of it in some small way. Thank you. Really kind words. Thank you.
You have a question, right? Not just like, hi, Sailor Moon. Okay. All right, here you go.
Thank you. I just like to say that Sailor Moon is literally within my family. My sister and I both love it. And Sailor Moon and you have impacted my life, well, like everyone else has said. And if it weren't for Sailor Moon, I don't think I would be the well-rounded person I am today. And I like to think that I have a pure heart like Sailor Moon, even if I could be a little bit moody. And I also have a question. Has anybody ever called you Meatball Head?
Do not give my children any ideas, please. No. No, they haven't, but I'm sure there's a first time for everything.
Now the rest of the weekend. I'm sensing something. All right, partial Sailor Scout outfit. We'll go with it. Okay.
I was just wondering, is your daughter into Sailor Moon? Like, do you ever watch the episodes ever?
We have a question, Alexa and or Jake, maybe. Would you like to answer? Do you watch Sailor Moon? Do you want to answer? No, they don't really watch Sailor Moon. And I would say partly because when they were really little, that just wasn't, we didn't watch a lot of TV in general. And it's not on in Toronto now. If it was on, I think they would. I think they've seen some other series that I worked in or directed, like Flying Around at Junior High and that kind of thing that have been on the air, but it's not on the air now. So this is kind of new to them too. But I think we should maybe get some DVDs.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. We're down to it, the last question. The last question. You already had one, even though you're dressed up, she's like, what, I have Meatball Head, come on. Please. Princess, you didn't get one, did you? Princess, no? You're still not dressed like Sailor Moon.
Come on, man, I gotta do it.
If you do your hair next time, I'll get to you. I want to see some fun someday. All right, last question. Of right now, but there'll be other Q&As, don't worry.
Did you ever meet other voice actors in the episodes? You know, when you were voice acting, like in a group, like become friends, you know, that sort of thing?
Yeah, we worked together sometimes, but as I said, often I was on my own in the booth. And some of us knew each other from other jobs that we'd done because the Toronto industry was even smaller then, a decade or so ago, and so you'd start to work on similar shows and get to know people. So yes, I definitely knew some of them and would socialize with them a little bit. But as I say, because we were scheduled at different times, there wasn't a lot of that went on, but very friendly, supportive group all around.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, all our guests will return later at 3 o'clock for a gigantic super panel, but for now, please give it up for Terri Hawk spending a whole awesome hour with us. Thank you so much.
Good job. Wonder if maybe we can just all do a collective chant just to kind of give us some power for the day. How about moon healing activation?
Yeah.
Okay? All together on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Moon healing activation!
Thank you, everybody.
I love you!
Oh, thank you so much.